don't know if I can.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, I don't know why I don't ever get them, the links.
I wonder if when it comes from Podbeam itself, it would be considered spam.
Oh, I didn't check spam. I checked like promotions and everything. I didn't check spam. Let me see.
Hello, hello. There you go.
Good morning,
Hi,
Linda. How are you
Melissa.
feeling?
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, very, very good. Thanks, honey. Yep. Um.
Did you like the bathtub picture?
Oh, how funny! How funny!
So,
I know when we were little kids, um, my mom would probably give us baths in the, but we've never climbed in it ourselves. That was so funny. That's so cute.
I'm sending you the picture now, Beth, so you
Oh,
understand.
okay, yeah.
So, my son is a water sensory kid, so he loves the sound of water. So, like when we put the pool up yesterday and started filling it to figure out where the holes are, he's like, "My destiny has come." I love the sound of water. So dad resealed the tub because it was leaking under my washer and dryer below. And so he told him he couldn't take a bath. And so I walk out and my sink is completely cleaned out, which is like a miracle in my house. We always have dishes. And he's sitting in the sink taking a bath. And he's 9. I'm
You
amazed
know
how he
what?
fit in the tub or in the sink.
That's impressive. Let me see. Wow, that is very impressive.
Isn't it?
Yeah, good on him.
So I
Problem
let him get
solving.
away with that because he made himself he got in there. It's like, forget it. You figured out how to get in there, you figured out not to flow my sink over. The wins to you.
That's too funny. But that's really cute, though. I mean, he takes initiative. That's wonderful.
Mhm. What can you say? They think outside the box.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's better than the kids upstairs. We're in a two-family house, and they broke the handle off something, and the water kept running, and I kept hearing water running. I mean, gushing, and all of a sudden, it's coming through the bathroom ceiling, and all of a sudden, it's through the pouring down in my kitchen ceiling.
Oh my
It,
gosh.
yeah, it was very nice mess. So I don't know.
I would not have been a happy person.
I was not, especially since it all came down because we have like a chandelier light, um, 3 lights, and that's where it was just running down the lights through the electric. So I turned the lights off quickly, but um, so yeah,
So
that was fun.
before we get started, I have a couple announcements. Our
Okay.
Okay.
listener knows about this, Linda. So we talked about going video.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I love
So
it.
here's the problem. We can do video, we can't do live. We can't do them both.
I'd rather
And
do video.
you'd rather do video? All right.
Yeah.
Which we can do, but I'm just going to let you know that more people listen to audio than video. Statistically
Interesting.
speaking, podcasts or radio shows that just do audio get more listeners than video.
Oh.
Ah. So you're saying get rid of Podbean and go
No,
with
no,
the
no,
other company,
no,
or
no,
do
no.
both?
We do both.
Oh,
So
okay.
the flip side is here's an idea. Rick and a lot of the other, and it's each host has the option to do this because our new home is on Skylar Network, and each show has their own community besides the radio show.
Mhm.
is we're going to host as often as you want. For each host, it can be weekly, it can be monthly, but it's meet the host of the show. So it's
Hmm.
basically doing a show on the platform,
Okay.
and you ask questions, meet you, talk about different ideas for the show, things like that.
Okay, so
Oh,
monthly doing a show on the Skylar Network.
Hmm.
Okay.
You
yeah,
can
that's
do it
a,
monthly, you can do it weekly. It's all up to you.
And that one would be like the video chat room like you showed me?
Correct.
And then anyone can join?
Correct.
Okay. And then where are we going to like share that link to join it?
When we figure out the dates you want to do it, we'll have it all over social media.
Okay.
And then we will also have it marketed on the shows, on the websites. It'll be everywhere you want it to be.
Okay.
yeah, I was thinking when I was at the surgeon's the other day and I was telling the nurse about, the podcast. She said, "Oh, give me the information." I'm thinking I'm going to write out some kind of a little simple card that I can hand people and say, "Okay, this is where you go um, for Podbean, and once you're on Podbean, this is how you find our shows." Um,
I'm
so-
working on that one. It'll be
oh,
out
okay.
next week.
Oh, wow, you're wonderful. Yeah, because I was
Because,
thinking, well, I was going to do something and try to figure that out.
oh no,
Um,
because we're also not just on Podbean, we're also on Amazon. Um,
right.
we're on. You can listen to us on any platform.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just we record it here.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can come
Yeah.
here and listen to it, or you can listen to it on other platforms.
Okay. I guess I'm just not with the ages yet, so I'm
There's
getting
a
the
lot of pieces.
There's more pieces than I even know, and that's what I love about AI and the whole analytical system that runs behind the screen, which is why I have dual monitors, because I don't even know.
you know everything. Come on. You know.
I got
Um,
guys that know everything that help me in different aspects. I've
I
got
got
an
a guy
AI guy
for that.
now.
I got a guy for that. Uh,
I do, which is really funny. I ended up sending a friend of mine a message. What AI program do you recommend? And for creating videos, for text to videos, and I'm creating a couple for the radio show. And he's like, "Oh, here, use this one." Okay.
good, good, good. Well, I will be on, of course, next week, but then the first week of May, I will not be available since we will be cruising.
Ooh.
Yeah, y'all be stuck with me all week long.
That is a-okay. Um, but that's gonna be fun.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so for today, I thought that we would. Oh, well, should we say we change the name of this podcast? Is this the first week with the new name, I think?
I think so.
Yeah.
So it is now called Fad-Free Food.
Aha.
We renamed it, did a little bit of rebranding.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it up on my website too, I think. Let me put that on a to do. Just for more. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, today I keep thinking there's chat things, but it's like the optimize my life that keeps popping up. Thanking me for listening.
Oh,
Um, I wanted to talk about artificial dyes and artificial colors today,
okay.
since it has come to the forefront of the news, and There's talk about banning all artificial colors now. I know red dye number 3, I believe, was recently banned, and we talked about that a little bit when it happened. And to recap on that, a food additive, excuse me, of any variety has to be removed from the market if it's shown to cause health problems in human or animal studies. And so, without going back to look it up, so like this is going to be a little vague. There were health concerns in studies with, I believe, like either rats or mice with red dye number 3, and so because of that, it has to be removed. There's no body of proof that it causes problems in humans, but that's not the way the FDA words things in terms of when things need to be removed. They work through an abundance of caution and say, okay, if there's a problem in like rats, mice, whatever animal studies, then we pull it anyway because there's the potential that maybe that also crosses over and causes human problems. Um, so that's something to keep in mind. And then I wanted to revisit that and clear it up, and then also talk about some of the wording that's being used when talking about these artificial dyes. So one of the things that comes up is that like that they're not under the generally recognized as safe category within the FDA, and that's not as alarming as it sounds, right? It sounds like, oh my God, then they're not okay. What that means is that they go through additional testing to make sure they're safe for human consumption. They're not just assumed to be okay. So it's not saying that they're unsafe. It's saying that that in order to put them in food products, they need to be tested more before they make it in there. So like to just read the sentence, there is no generally recognized as safe provision for color additives. You would think like, oh God, then are they not safe? All that means is you can't make an assumption. You have to test the color additive first.
The big
Um,
part of why the red dye number 3, why they talked about banning it was actually a few years ago
yeah, I know it was a while before they got it banned.
because of the Elmo cakes. Back when Elmo was big, you would it wasn't that you gave a kid's cake. It was that these cakes had so much red dye on them that it create hyperactivity in kids.
Ah, okay.
But it
That
had
makes
nothing to do with the cake, you know.
It does.
Or the fact you're giving them sugar.
Yeah, like there's a multitude of things happening in that.
But Elmo
um,
was so popular, everyone was buying the Elmo cakes, and it was all one giant red. I mean, it was kind of cool because the kids pooped red for a while.
oh my God, that would be so alarming. Um, that would be so alarming. So there's that that statement going around, right? Of like, oh well, they're not generally recognized as safe. You're right. They have extra testing beyond these things that we just say, oh yeah, that's fine. The things that are considered generally recognized as safe would be um like think of it like if you use like turmeric to color. We already know turmeric's safe, so to use it as a color additive instead, right, it would make things yellow. Um, it's generally recognized as safe as a color additive, right? So because we know that it's a spice that's already being consumed. Um, and interestingly, I can't remember how long ago it was now. Kraft macaroni and cheese switched from using artificial dyes to using like turmeric for their coloring. Um, uh, and no one noticed.
I always wondered about because it's so orange, you know. We grew up on Kraft macaroni and cheese. I hate to say, but yeah,
It
so
was
much.
it was changed in, I just looked it up, in 2016.
It
Um, so it's,
didn't change the flavor, apparently.
yeah, it didn't. It just changed what they used to get there. Um, and no one noticed, right? So, like, I don't think that you're going to see a huge shift in a ton of products, so, like, in terms of what we visually see. Um, and no one was like, wow, I feel so much better after I eat this Kraft mac and cheese. I wonder what happened, and recognized that they were eating like additional turmeric in their diet. So it's, I'm conflicted.
True.
The
That's
only thing you
true.
notice is, like, cereals, like, I know Fruit Loops and stuff went natural for a little while, and it ended up being, like, a duller color,
Yeah,
and so kids weren't eating it, and so they
yeah.
switched back.
Which then it's like, well, I'm okay with you not eating Fruit Loops. um, so but it's not like, it has nothing to do with the dyes. It's that it's a super sweetened cereal that's low in fiber. So, like, yeah. Um, but so color additives that are currently being used, like the short and sweet of it is they're assessed as being safe for consumption. They have additional classifications that they go under, and they're regulated by the FDA. And I know some people don't trust FDA regulation, but remember that they were put into place to protect us, to protect the consumer. And I
Mhm.
think some of that history gets lost. Um, Dyes, so food coloring and, well, mostly coloring, right? But any sort of like perversion of the food to make it more visually appealing was happening before the FDA existed. Um, but like, this dates back into the 1800s. I'm talking like this has been happening for a while. Um, and it's just like within food manufacturing now. I mean, food has been colored and everything. When I was reading about the history, it's back to like 300 BC that they can find that like wine was artificially colored back that far. Um, it's the perception of our food, right, of how we see it, impacts whether or not we consume it and how much of it we consume. So that visual appeal is so important and has always been important. Um, so in terms of what was used for coloring before we had standards and regulations from the FDA, yes, things like turmeric were used, but things like iron and lead were used as well, and mercury. So there's a reason that these guidelines from the FDA were put into place. So it was in 1900 that they started with some of these assessments, because materials such as lead, arsenic, and mercury were being added as coloring agents. This is all from the FDA.gov website. And then the original Food and Drugs Act was passed in 1906 to get rid of those poisonous and toxic colorings, truly poisonous and toxic colorings. Um, Also, they found that a lot of times these coloring agents um, were used to hide like defective food items. So it
Mhm.
was things, think about like coloring like expired meat. So the meat might have gone bad, but then if you add in additional coloring, it doesn't look like it's gone bad. So think about things like that. Like, it was to hide not just like a blemish on your green pepper. This was to hide that food was spoiling and still sell it to the people. right? So the goal of a food producer, or not food producer necessarily, a food supplier, right? The person selling the food, the goal is to
Mhm.
sell it. And so they were looking for any means possible to still sell everything they had and not have to like damage out goods. Oh, my headphones are gonna die. So so the FDA steps in and says, "That's dangerous. Please stop." Um, and and so then we have, okay, well, how can we get around this? How can we color things safely? Um, because otherwise you're looking at foods that aren't necessarily as visually appealing, right? The goal is still to get you to buy something and eat it. And at this point, we've become so accustomed to this visually appealing food to the point that people don't want to buy like misshapen produce because we've got this preconceived notion in our head of what it's supposed to look like.
Mhm.
And so for anyone that's done like a home garden, you know those things don't always come out looking perfect. Like sometimes your tomatoes grow weird or your peppers grow weird or like some I've gotten like a pepper that grows inside a pepper and it's not that like somebody genetically changed it. It's that these genetic anomalies happen when anything grows.
Right.
It's not perfect. Things happen. You get tomatoes that grow together and like get intertwined or have extra lumps and bumps or a slightly different color or like anything like that, right? So a lot of these like colorings and dyes, we're thinking about food, but this also extends into like makeup and cosmetics too.
Mhm.
Um, and what's being used to dye them. And so I'll be interested to see, even though like the public narrative right now is talking about taking these artificial dyes out of food, how that's going to translate to the cosmetic industry as well. And see if we're going to like see dyes removed from that or have to change for that. And then you get into like, well, what are you going to use instead? Because a lot of times in cosmetics, you're looking for very pigmented color that's going to be hard to create in a way that's palatable to the general public. Um,
Hmm.
that's one of those things that I'm kind of watching to see what actually comes of this in terms of how it's going to be a little bit more widespread. It's going to be more than just like maybe your Gatorade's not quite as blue. There's more to it, or things are going to be kind of like bland, or I think it was like you. I forget if it was Mary or Linda was saying earlier, like how the Fruit Loops were just not quite as bright, like the color was dull. And do we just then like have to get used to that and realize that that food is not always brightly colored once you've processed it and be okay with it? Like there's a lot that we'll see like how the psychology of food plays into it as well of what's considered um
Acceptable in the.
yeah, acceptable, the new normal, like what are you expecting to see out of your food now that it's not going to be like a bright red Elmo cake. um I'm just thinking like I made what did we, or like dyeing Easter eggs. Like you can do vegetable dyes and things.
Mhm.
There are other dyes, right, that you can use. There are naturally occurring dyes, but the color may not be as bright. And then you get into, well, if you're allergic to a certain fruit or vegetable, and now that has being used to color a different food, how does that play into it? Um, so we'll see there, and see what gets used instead. Um, I was looking for the other piece that comes up is like what the colors are made of, right? What these synthetic color additives are made from. Um, and I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the biggest thing to remember is that they've been tested to be safe. And so I'm not like, and I think that it's a little bit of um, like a distraction from health issues to be so focused on this, right? To focus in on artificial dyes and trying to remove them and saying that you're improving the health of the population when there's no body of evidence suggesting, or not even suggesting, there's no true like peer reviewed body of evidence saying that this is a public health intervention that is needed.
Okay.
So my question is, how will this affect like your food coloring dyes?
Yeah, there'll be, I mean, that's that'll be gone. You'll have to use vegetable dyes, and that's an art form that's been lost essentially, right? Like that's something that families just knew how to do in the past, and it's not something that we know how to do now. Um, yeah. So let's see. There's always the chance, like I know some people are allergic to like red dye number 40, so that's so like if you have an allergy, you would obviously avoid it. Um,
Wasn't there a joke in Back to the Future, something about not eating the green M&Ms or something? I can't
was there?
remember. In Back to the Future, the movie, there was some joke again about not eating like the green M&Ms or um some I can't remember if it was green or red or something. There was a joke in, I thought it was in that movie, about oh, don't eat the red.
Because of
He
like something that was in it.
Yeah, because I guess he came back from the future and said, oh,
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. It wasn't Back to the Future, but it was about the green M&Ms because it's considered a aphrodisiac.
Oh,
alrighty.
um, mm, 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 mm. But in terms of like what they're made of, right? When I was watching some news segment on it about it this morning, I think, or yesterday, was saying how they're like petroleum based and trying to drive up this fear of like, oh my god, I'm drinking or like eating or drinking like fuel, right?
There's so many things are petroleum based. It doesn't mean you're eating.
I also like Vaseline is
I was just going
petroleum
to say
jelly.
gasoline is. Oh.
That's I just
And
it's
I know where that
context
fear
matters.
came from.
And what?
I know where that fear and that process came from.
Oh, do tell.
So, back when we had the depression and they were looking at ways to make bigger turkeys and chickens, they created margarine. It's an oil-based product.
Yeah.
It's fake butter. They wouldn't eat it. So what does the great world do? They decide they're going to feed it to humans. So I can't believe it not butter or croquet, all these different companies made margarine. Scientifically speaking, margarine is one molecule away from plastic, which is why it never melts. It doesn't go bad. It can sit there forever and not mold.
And
Margarine
it's
has been banned. So because the main ingredient was a petroleum-based product and it was a molecule away from plastic, it is a completely synthetic food. It's the original synthetic food we've ever eaten. That's where people are starting to freak out about, that and the fact of the plastics of your cooking materials ending up in your food. Welcome to the world of excessive worrying about everything
and it's
and not fact basing your information. You just freak out.
Would you remember George Carlin's famous line? What causes cancer is saliva, but only taken in little amounts over a long period of time.
Wait, say it
Yep.
one more time.
The what the cause of cancer is saliva, but only if
Oh,
taken in small amounts over a long period of time.
oh my God.
It's just the fact that you could be afraid of anything and everything, but so
It's 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 one of those things of like playing to the fear that people don't know, nor
fully
should we be
understand. Yes.
nor should we be expected to fully understand everything. Right? It's not possible. And I understand that like food is something we all consume. And so and there that's where the fear comes in of like, oh my God, you don't understand what you're putting into your body. It's like, well, before you get hung up on that artificial piece, do you understand like the chemical breakdown and makeup of like the fruits and vegetables and chicken and water and everything that you're putting into your body? Like, no, like if you haven't bothered with that piece, why are you so worried about the next piece? Because then you don't know the difference between them. Um, and it's I don't I think it's my
It
brother
goes
that
back to that same that we've talked about before. People saying, "Well, if I can't pronounce the ingredient, I won't eat it." Well,
yeah.
just because you don't know or understand doesn't mean it's bad. Just because you can't pronounce something doesn't necessarily make it bad.
Yeah, it's one of those like if I was like, "Oh, you need more dihydrogen monoxide." Like you don't then it's like this fear of like, "Oh my god, I'm missing something in my diet. Where can I get this? Where can I get this? And what has it?" And it's like, "Well,
Well,
that's water."
yes.
That's water. Like it's so some of it is what words we're choosing to use to explain things.
Mhm.
And a lot of the wording around these artificial dyes is used to drive up fear. Um, if you, I don't think it's bad to, I also don't think it's bad to remove it. I think that it just requires more narrative. And like going online to look up some stuff for today, you also find articles about how um, food products sold in other countries. So, like the UK version of something that's also sold in America won't be made the same and will have less artificial dyes in it. But also, we expect back to like our expectation of what the food's going to look like. We expect to see our products a certain way, a certain color. And so manufacturers play into that, and because it's recognized as safe, then they use it, right? Because then it drives up their sales. If we were to see the it's not that it doesn't look nice, the product that's sold without the food dyes, but it's different. Um, and so we would need to change our expectation as Americans of what we're seeing.
Yeah. Well,
No,
because we also like things sweeter than than even in when we were in England. Okay, it was a number of years ago, but still, um, the soda, there's Americans' taste has evolved into liking things a lot sweeter than um other parts of the world, possibly.
I know
Yeah,
you talked about on the, and it's going to tie into what Linda was saying, about be different areas of the world you live, you adapt and grow to being able to tolerate different foods. So, can we really say, well, this country makes it this way, it's safe for us to eat normally compared to what we're used to over here?
True.
that's oh yeah, to like be adapted to it. I don't know. I don't know if it hasn't so evolutionary changes like that usually take a little bit longer. I don't know if they've been around. Well, I mean, technically there've been food dyes in different areas since, what
Well,
did I
like
say,
for instance,
300 BC.
like the Asians eat a lot more fishy products and different foods and don't have the cholesterol levels that you would here if you were living, born, and raised in America and eating. It's like when you come over here, people have more health problems eating the
The
same.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other thing of like the what's called the standard American diet and the effect on health of people that are immigrating or here as refugees or however they get here, right? But like coming from somewhere with a very different like cultural food landscape. But so I was just looking up pictures of like the differences of what foods look like. I did like UK versus American products, and
Mm-hmm.
the colors are slightly different. So you would think like this is a Mountain Dew, nor am I encouraging you to eat Mountain Dew or drink Mountain Dew, whatever. But like, the coloring is very different, and so you would pick that bottle up and be like, why is this such a weird like not nice yellow color versus the green I'm used to seeing. And it's because it is colored with beta carotene, which is from carrots, versus using the like yellow number 5 that is used in America. So it
Yes,
would
because their 7-Up type thing, as lemon lime, it was a really bright yellow. It was kind of jarring.
oh
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, so it's about it would be also about like changing our expectation of what the food looks like. Um and being okay seeing like like beet juice in something to make it like a pink color and knowing why it's there, right? There's also some other like aspects to food labeling between different countries, like that there could be different requirements too in terms of what gets reported on the food label. um and so that's why you might see like some food labels here have a longer list of ingredients than somewhere else because a different country might be able to say like herbs and spices versus we have to list them out. Um, yeah. So that can certainly, the other one that pulled up was like ketchup because there is a color difference a little bit, but um, there's also a difference in the ingredients list, but that's because we have to list more things to meet our
Now,
requirements.
how would this adjust the flavor of it using different vegetables as opposed to just food coloring? It doesn't taste anything.
Because it's the color extract from the fruit or vegetable, I doubt you're gonna get much. It depends how much they can like distill it down, right? And really extract just the color from the fruits and vegetables because the current coloring doesn't provide any flavor. Um and I'm trying to think, like I've had pancakes that were colored with beet juice and they didn't taste like beets. And like like back to the example of the mac and
Right,
cheese,
right.
no one noticed when Kraft went to using turmeric over, I forget, whatever the yellow was that they were previously using. So I don't know if you're going to see much of a flavor difference. I think it's mostly going to be that visual change. Um
My lord. Okay. Reason I'm asking this is because my kids are
well,
very, very observant.
the thing is so if you're looking at not even just children but people that are um very sensitive to how things look or the mouth feel or the taste, they might notice. I've had clients where they're extremely like taste sensitive and notice when a manufacturer changes their like seasoning blend that they use, right? So it's possible that that'll come up for people that are either like super tasters or are just very sensitive to any slight changes in their food. They very well may notice. versus like I'm probably not going to notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the food acceptance, it's going to take a little bit, I think. But then back to the issue of like why is this the hill we're dying on? Like why this one? And just like if you do a very basic Google search, so not using any fancy terms, like just why our food dyes bad for you. So I tried to keep it like super basic, commonplace words. And the AI piece that pops up at the top says that there's concerns, quoting it, raise concerns due to potential links to hyperactivity and behavioral issues in children, and some studies suggest a link to cancer risk. So there's key words here, right? There's just that there's potential links and suggest a link. So this is one of those things where we have to remember that what's called correlation does not imply causation. Because you're seeing them appear together, it doesn't mean that they are linked. It doesn't mean that one causes the other. Like the Elmo cakes, right? Was it the red dye or was it the copious amounts of sugar that you find in cake? And all that frosting.
Yeah.
So it's being aware that like, okay, this is up and coming research. This is something that's being looked into. And there might be something, like I said, with like the FDA recently banned Red 3 because it found in animal studies there was a link to cancer. So we don't necessarily know how it impacts humans, but there's that abundance of caution. And then obviously if you're allergic to it, some people are. That's clearly a reason to avoid it, and they're probably super celebrating this because there'll be less foods that they have to worry about avoiding for that like subset of the population. But overall, remember that these have already been studied, and if they're not directly linked to a health concern in animal or human studies, that's why they're still allowed in your food. And continued research is being done, and they'll be removed, like we saw with Red 3, if something comes up. And some people aren't willing to take that risk of like, oh, well, what if something comes up? So I'm never going to have it because there may or may not be a problem. And I mean, that's certainly living from a place of fear. So I'd invite you to look more into that. But and evaluate like how you feel living like that. What I was really looking for, honestly, I think it's like a distraction, like a political distraction to say like, look what we're doing for the health system, or like the health of Americans by removing these artificial dyes when there's plenty of other issues like access to fresh fruits and vegetables that could be addressed and have a way bigger impact on overall health. But those programs are gone, and this is being put into place. And so I think that it's a little bit of a distraction technique and a little bit of a look at what we're doing, making sweeping changes to help you when there's also plenty of other sweeping changes that are like really, really hurting us. Okay. And it stinks that food has gotten so political. But like access to fresh fruits and vegetables, like adequate nutrition for, and there's a big focus on nutrition in this particular like healthcare administration, right? With like RFK, his big focus was on child health, and appropriate school meals is a great way to do that and really capture helping children and feeding them food that will not only nourish their bodies but also their minds. And appropriate food intake is shown to have like a huge impact on school outcomes as well. So not just health outcomes, but learning outcomes. So you're helping the kids on like a variety of levels. So if your focus is on helping children, instead of putting all this, like the effort would be better spent, because any of this is going to take effort. Any of this is going to be not only like an administrative lift, but then like an operational lift of how do you implement this and oversee this, and how do you provide the resources to have people make these switches? Like, does everyone have an alternative lined up for their food dyes and making a food look good, right? If we're going to put all that effort out, or are you just saying it's banned and leaving it up to everyone else to figure out, which is very possible. But anyway,
See, my opinion is, okay, that's, what help with the kids is exercise.
that would help too. Yeah.
Let's, the best thing they did was offer breakfast in schools and then afternoon snacks for kids who are in the daycares at the schools. Because sometimes some kids, their only meal they get that day is school lunch.
So there are some, so I'm in New York, and I know there are quite a few states now that offer universal school meals, which is amazing. We are income based. So like your school district can offer universal free school meals if you hit a certain like percentage of your students that can receive free and reduced priced lunch. My school district doesn't meet that. So, and they also don't provide snack. That would like, even for aftercare, it depends on the aftercare and if they're hooked up with a school food service system or if they're just building it into their budget. Because we were in an aftercare program that was hooked up with a school system well, I guess they still are hooked up with a school system that does provide universal free meals. So they got universally free after school snack too with the way that they did it. So it's not congruent across all states, right? It's different between states, and then depending on your state, it's also different within school districts. And I understand the idea of like providing, you're creating equity, right? Because you're creating opportunity for children who may not have any opportunity to eat. You're creating the opportunity for them to eat. But then like, so we don't, my kids don't fall into that financial guideline for receiving free meals. But so then the onus is on me to either pay for it or provide them with food. And a lot of times I pay for it just because I don't have the bandwidth to pack lunch.
It's funny because now this is how different it was, 60 some years ago, or seven, however long ago when I was in school. We would have provided, because I went to a Catholic school, grade school, so we had to go to mass in the morning. So when mass was over, we were given powdered donuts and chocolate milk.
Oh my God, that would never fly now. Actually,
No.
So here's the thing though, is that with a Catholic school, with private school, they're not held to the same standards if they're not participating. They can like opt out of the National School Lunch Program.
I doubt if they still do that now.
Yeah, they very well might. Because it's an additional way for the school to receive funding, right? To opt into this National School Lunch Program. And so if they don't opt into it, they could function a different way. I remember, this was like 20 years ago, but I remember there was a private school locally that they like rotated which parent made lunch for the entire school. And so there was no like There was no federal or state assistance. It was on the families to provide all the food.
Yeah,
Oh.
we walked home for lunch and walked back to school. Nowadays, if you let the kids out, they wouldn't come back for afternoon. But we
Now with
used
the criteria with some schools, it is like a science project putting a lunch together because of the list of banned foods,
oh, goodness.
you know?
This comes down to perception too, right? Of like today's lunch for my kids from their school, I forget, there's a vegetable side in there too, but it's like a hot dog and baked potato chips and something else. And people might be like, oh my God, that's a terrible lunch. But you have to look at the whole picture, right? You're allowed to offer a starchy vegetable. I think it's like once a week. So that just happens to be the day that potatoes are offered, once or twice a week. Now I can't remember. And then yes, it's a hot dog, but it's 100% beef because we've got a subset of people in our school district that don't eat pork. So they're 100% beef hot dogs. The roll might even be whole grain to meet with the whole grain compliance once a day. And then you've got a baked potato chip, which is, if somebody threw veggie straws on the menu, people wouldn't complain, but because it says potato chip, they get upset, when in reality, those are almost the exact same thing. A baked potato chip and a veggie straw are almost the same.
But kids need a little more fat for their brains to develop.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, neither of my children like hot dogs, so nobody ordered lunch today. But it's no better than the salami and crackers that I sent my daughter with. Right? Like I sent her with salami and crackers and apple and carrots. So it's just different.
God, I remember when I was a kid, it was, cupcakes, ho-hos, whatever little Debbie's treat would fit in our lunchbox with a thermos of, fruit cocktail and whatever sandwich we could scrape out of the fridge.
I don't.
And you wouldn't even think about that now.
No. No. There's so many well, and now you have
so
to watch
complicated now.
Well, yeah, like I think I've heard that it gets different as the kids get older. But in elementary school, the whole school is like allergy aware. And so you have to anything we send in for them to eat needs to be like not only peanut tree nut free, but it can't be what we call like a may contain, where on the label at the bottom of the ingredients it'll say like
yeah.
may contain or process in a factory that also processes whatever. And so like a lot of times just mentally it's easier to have them buy lunch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because my kids couldn't, no.
It's like I can't send in like a Lunchable, and then again, perception, right? People are like, oh my God, you would send a Lunchable? Think about what I just put in my daughter's lunchbox for today. Salami, crackers, fruit, and vegetable. With a Lunchable, it's a Lunchable if I added like an apple in with the Lunchable. Granted, Lunchables usually have like a cookie or two in them or something too, but it's literally like 2 Oreos. That's not going to make or break the situation. Like, it's just not. And I think that there's just been so much fear mongering around food that and truthfully, that stress is probably doing more damage to your body than the artificial food dye. Like, yeah. And that's a piece that's not considered. Like, we joke about like stress causing gray hairs and things, but like stress does genuinely have an impact on your body. It changes how you digest your food. It changes how you store it. It changes how you utilize it. It changes your gut microbiome, everything. And
it also affects your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to change your blood pressure. It's going to change your heart rate because if you're scared all the time and living from this place of like worry and fear, right? Your body is primed. We know our fight or flight type reactions, right? It's a different way that you're utilizing the entire nervous system of your body to be in that fight or flight type mode. And so if you're doing that, you literally can't digest your food the same way because the piece of your system that digests the food isn't this is such an oversimplification. It's not like turned on the same way it would be if you were relaxed.
Which is a
Right.
good reason why a lot of times when you eat and you're stressed out, it goes right through you.
You're supposed to sit down. Yeah, because your body's not digesting it the same way. Like, and you get some people, oh my God, I would tell you both this story, but I'm not repeating it on the podcast. There are some people that get like a nervous stomach, right? So if they're like worried or upset about something, like they have to go to the bathroom more.
Mhm.
And it's part of it is because like their body's trying to clear them out so that they can run for their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that
um
makes sense. Of course.
yeah.
When you watch any movie, especially like a lot of like gangster movies or war movies, first thing they do is soil themselves.
Oh, is it really?
In
Yeah. You either
stress
wet
will do
yourself or
that.
you soil yourself. And honestly, it does actually happen in real life.
Oh,
I
sure.
will take your word for it. I
Stress,
believe you.
stress, um, but it's that's interesting when you said that because of the fight or flight, how your body would want to get rid of that anything in your stomach so that you can run faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
That just makes sense, of course.
And part of it is blood flow too, right? If your body is
Mhm.
primed and ready to like run away, it's diverting blood flow to your muscles rather than to your digestive tract. This is
Yeah,
the same idea behind, I don't know. I grew up like you can't swim for 30 minutes after you eat. Same principle. If you're digesting your food, your blood supply is diverted, not completely, obviously, but more of
right.
it
But enough.
allocated to your digestive system to bring the energy that's needed to your digestive tract to actually enact the digestion, but then also to carry the nutrients away to other parts of the body. And then if you're suddenly using your muscles instead, you're either going to end up with cramping because your muscles don't have everything they need, or you end up with like abdominal cramping because your food's like half digested in there. So, like,
That
either
does
way, it's
make
not great.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just like one of those old wives' tales that we
Oh,
heard at the pool.
a lot of old wives' tale makes sense when you know the reason behind it.
Yeah. But just, it's like instead of trusting that wisdom, we like thought we were too cool for it and decided that we didn't like it anymore. And then it's like all of these studies and all of this additional information is like, oh, yeah, I guess mom and grandma were right. It's like, okay, well,
There's a reason for that.
yeah.
And it's also like why when you're stressed out that, you're not hungry. Like you could be starving 5 minutes before that, and all of a sudden you're not hungry. And the thought of food just makes you want to throw up.
Yep.
Your stomach turns into that knot.
Yeah. It can definitely go either way because then you've got other people who stress eat. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
that's because you can actually have like a sense of euphoria and like good feelings after you eat certain foods. So like both exist for very different reasons. Yeah. And it all depends on how your body reacts to stress. But it's one of those things to keep in mind. Like if you're so stressed out about the food information that you're hearing that it's that that you're physically seeing signs of stress or feeling signs of stress, like it's time to really reevaluate what you're prioritizing. Um, it's just like I don't know. I feel like this is a definite like huge waste of effort, but not my decision.
It's funny when Ron eats, he gets energized. When I eat, like we'll go out to dinner and just have a normal. I don't eat a lot, but no matter what I eat, I tend after a meal, I get sleepy. He gets energized. So we'll go out like for dinner, 6 o'clock or something, he'll like, oh, let's do something. And I'm like, let's go home. It's funny how our two bodies react so differently for eating the same thing.
It's, yeah, every body, like every physical body is different. Like we're all kind of generally the same because we're all human, but there are nuances, and because we're paying so much more attention to our bodies, and there's a bunch of factors, but that's definitely one of them, we're starting to see those nuances. um and that's, it's just, it's not that there's ever, I feel like a lot of people then jump to like, oh my god, something must be wrong because we're not exactly the same, and it's like, no, you're just two
Yeah.
different humans. Like neither one is right or wrong, it just is neutral acceptance.
Yeah.
It just is. But
Hmm.
we are, is it, oh, it's, oh my god, that flew by
Oh,
today.
that was a fast hour. Yes, yes.
Wow.
Well, thank
So
you, Beth, because the information that you share, it's there's instead of even just foreign different countries, just different ethnic ethnic ethnicities or whatever. um how we perceive food, and what we eat, and um the social norms on meals. It's so diverse, and so we have to realize that if somebody feels different about food, as long as there's a baseline, that you don't go too far overboard with not eating, or do eating, and overeating, under eating. um you know there's kind of a norm out there, but otherwise there's so many different variables on what we eat. But at the same time, I think it's good um that the that there is the FDA that does give guidelines. If you ever watch that show, how it's how food was made, or how food that shaped America, or something like that. I can't remember what the name of the show is, but it talks about how food was developed in the country, and different brands, and different um
the food that, did we do a thing on that, a show on that yet?
I don't think so. It would be interesting, though. It's a good topic.
Get ready.
Yeah,
I can definitely look at that.
yeah. Well, just like you were saying, they always talk about French cooking, all the sauces. It's because the meat might have been bad, and so you'd have a heavy sauce to cover up the bad meat.
Oh,
Um,
100%. Yeah.
you know, um, we're just we're just so used to having things so clean in America. When we were in England, we went to a groaning board, which is a buffet, a smorgasbord, but they call it a groaning board. But then the fish was just gutted, so you had the skin, the head, the all the scales. It's just the turkey. Just the feathers were pulled back, not like
Not
completely
off.
taken off like we would, be. Things, and that's in England, so it's not even, you know, um, Thailand or something. But again, you know, there's protections out there, and which will be good, but don't go overboard. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's always the thing. We're not good at that.
No.
Oh, Americans.
Well,
Um,
thank you for
yes,
today.
thank you. We will talk next week.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Bye.
Mary, any final comments?
Join us tomorrow night at 9:30, 8:30 Central and it is Cracking the Spectrum. And we're talking about neurodiversity from a father's perspective. And an,
Okay.
and it's all about looking at the conspiracy theories that are coming out, the crap that JFK or RFK is coming up with.
Oh my God.
And it's about what life is like for a dad and helping fathers understand it's not your fault and how to connect with your child on a special level.
Okay. We
And then
shall tune in.
join us on tomorrow at noon, and we have a special co-host, Gabby, who is autistic, and she's going to talk about life and how she's on a mission to become a lawyer and help go into office eventually to help change laws, and how what's going on is motivating for the first time ever the amount of autistic individuals speaking out and self advocating for themselves. It's the first time we're coming out of the closet, per se, to talk about how we're not different. We can walk and talk and chew gum at the same time. We're just wired a little differently.
Good, good, good. Alrighty. Well, we shall see you on or hear you on those calls, and then again, Beth, next Wednesday. We look forward to more information and more fad-free food. Almost sounds like fee fi fum. Fad-free food. Bye bye, everyone. You have a
Bye.
wonderful afternoon.
Bye.